Hello my dear students, welcome to this new episode of the video. Now in this video, we'll talk about installing Laravel, okay? And quickly, I'm just going to go to the documentation and to access that laravel.com/docs and this will redirect you to the latest version being 6. I think 4 as at the time of recording this video. So I'm going to just copy this composer right here command. Okay, then I'm just going to I'm gonna hit on the shift key, okay, and then I'm gonna hit on the open partial window, paste that command and replace block with fellowship. Great. So this will take a couple of seconds to to load, and I'm just gonna pause the video till this goes up. Now one other thing is, if you have any issues, okay, with this load and you want to increase the load time, you could install a Laravel package called the a composer package called the composer prestissimo. Okay, so you just find it on GitHub or Google it, composer prestissimo, and then you install it. Okay, it's going to make the the download process or creating of your Laravel scaffolding application quite more faster than usual. So guys, I'm gonna pause this till it goes up completely and I'll see you. Okay, welcome back guys. We've got Laravel installed completely, and right about now I'm just gonna go to the folder where we install Laravel, okay, and then I'm just gonna open PowerShell window here, and I'm gonna say PHP artisan serve. Okay, just to test run this and see how it turns up. So I'm going to go to our local port, okay, and bam, we've got Laravel installed. Okay, so I'm going to open this real quick in PHP Storm. Okay. Okay, so I think this is already opened up for us correctly. And under the hood, I'm just gonna check something real quick, guys. Now in the controllers folder, you see we already have some authentication scaffolding created for us that comes directly with Laravel. Okay, so this is good because in the previous session of Laravel, you have to do the Laravel make auth command to create all of this for us. Okay, this is nice. Now in version 6.0, when you come to the public folder, you don't see any assets or CSS or JS file, which in previous version you would see an app.js and an app.css file and folder right here. Okay, now this is so because Laravel is now segregating its code from its design, okay, so that you can customize your design whichever way you want. Okay, and now you would need to run some commands. Okay, this composer require Laravel UI dev, which is in the authentication channel, authentication or the security section and the authentication tab, to bring those assets and CSS folder back in place. But right about now, we're not going to bother about that because we are not going to be using that. We're going to be creating a simple authentication mechanism, okay, in this course. So quickly, I'll just introduce us to our design right here, okay, the HTML CSS design, which I already had set up before this course. And I'm going to share this folder in the resource section of this video. So if you go to the index right here, you see we have the simple user interface. Okay, we have the profile, we have the followers, and this lovely scroll bar right here, and we have a load more button, we have the following, and we have people. Okay, and this time around we have a search option. Okay, so For this to actually work, we need a kind of authentication mechanism whereby a user will be authenticated. Okay, user needs to be logged in, and so for that I created a simple login interface and a register interface. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video where we be plugging in these interfaces, okay, to our blank Laravel application. Bye bye. Welcome back, my lovely students. Happy to see you. Happy to hear that you hearing me from the other side. Okay, so right about now, I'm just gonna go to the HTML folder. Okay, believing you have found and downloaded this resource. If you can't find that, just contact me. I'm always available in the comment section 247. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this assets folder. It's really what I like doing. Copy the assets folder, and I'm going to go to PHP Storm. Okay, and I'll paste this in public. Okay, and I'll take a couple of seconds to synchronize. Great. And then, okay, I think this is still loading. Let's see. Okay, so this is loaded completely. And then I would go to the, what's it called, the routes, and go to web. And right here you see we have just the get route, which is the welcome route. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is to leave it that way. Okay, go to the resource folder and go to views. Okay, so I'm gonna make a folder real quick and a file in it. So I'm gonna make the first folder called logged in. Okay, logged in. Okay, just sorry, that's supposed to be a folder, not a file. It's called is logged in. Okay, and then I am going to create another folder called maybe home. Okay, and then I'm gonna create a folder called layout. Great. Now what I'm gonna do right now is to rename this welcome to index. I just like doing that. Okay, it changes nothing in particular, but I love doing that. Okay, just so changes to index as well. Great. And now what I'm going to do right now is to just make sure everything is in place. So I'll go back to reload my application, and we can see clearly that everything is still in place. Now the next thing I want to do is to go to the HTML. Okay, and in this index right here we have, I'm just going to open with a lightweight code editor, and I think brackets would do the job for us. Okay, so index right here, I'm just gonna copy this real quick. Now in the layout right here, I'm gonna call this, create a new file in the layout called main.blade.php. Okay, so we have this. Okay, main.blade.php. I'm gonna paste that in the layout. Okay, so that's good. Now apart from that, I am going to take off this container right here. Okay, and I'm gonna say at yield. Okay, and say content. Okay, so we have that. And for script right here, at yield script. Okay, and right here at yield, I'm gonna say styles, just style, right? Great. And in the index right here, I'm going to take all of these guys out, and I'm going to say add extends, okay, and it's going to extend the layout dot the main, okay, and then I'm going to start a new section, and I'm going to say the section is the content, and then I'm going to stop this section, okay, great, and paste that right there. So now if I view this in the browser, you see we have this amazing layout up and running, great. But for some reason, I just like to wrap all of this in the assets function, okay, the assets Laravel built-in function. Now there's a reason I'm doing this, okay, because with time, when you start deploying your application live, okay, it starts loading its resource, that's this asset folders and files, as a relative path. And what that means is that when you try to access maybe a link other than this home right here or root directory index right here, the access file might not load up correctly, okay, you might not understand this right now. I don't know how easy enough to put this, but this is just good practice, okay, just do it. So I'm gonna wrap all of this just like so. Great. So now for the index, we would want to have the logging, okay, we don't want to have the what's it called. So I'm just going to collapse this gutter right here, copy every item in it, and for the index I'm gonna replace all these guys with this. Great. So let's just see this in our browser real quick, and bam guys, we have this up and running. What this literally means is that the home page is going to be our index page. Sorry, the login page is going to be our index page, okay, and that's good, that's good. So we need to create another route for our registration page, okay, so let's just do that real quick. We go to app and HTTP controllers. We already have a folder called alt, okay, but I just like to create mine, okay, so I'm just gonna click the control, okay, I think I can actually get the terminal from here. So in the terminal right here, I'm gonna say PHP artisan make controller, and I'm gonna create alt controller, okay, great. And then I think it will be nice for us to just create our routes immediately. So go to web, and we're going to say route get, okay, and we're going to say slash register, okay, and it's going to go to the alt controller at register, okay, great, and we're going to give this a name of register, great. So hopefully we get this correctly. I'm just going to copy this, go to our alt controller, create a public function, register, and return. I'm just gonna return this, okay, so let's just have that. So I'm gonna go to this site slash register, and if we don't have an error, we are golden guys, we don't have an error. Now for This I'm going to call this the home layout, okay, because when the user is trying to register, the user is not logged in. So I'm going to put this in the folder home, and then we're going to call this register.blade, okay, .php. Great. So we've got that up and running, and I'm going to go back to my HTML, and I'm going to copy this right here. Okay, great. Copy that to that particular folder, and we reload. So we just have to, in the auth controller, we have to return view, okay, and this time around we say home dot register. Okay, so if you're newbie, this is Blade templating engine. This is going to home and it's going to register. Okay, in the views folder, when you return the view folder, it's going to home and register. Great. So let's just reload this real quick, and bam, we've got this up and running. But just one thing, guys, we still need to extend this layout just like we did for the login. So we extend, and right here you could say stop or end section, whichever one you find convenient, but I like stop. So reload this, and we are up and running. So real quick, guys, I'm just going to do something real quick, okay, for the logged in, which is the index right here. Okay, this part where it says don't have an account, I'm just going to say route, okay, and I'm going to say register. Great. So that means when we go to the home right here, we click and you see we can go to the register. So for the login, I believe we should just set that to, okay, let's just say that to route home, okay, and let's see how that turns out. Oops, we don't have a route name home. It's supposed to be, okay, but we can actually name it home right here. Okay, so let's just see that. Great. So when I click on the login right here, we'll go back home. So guys, that's pretty much it. We have a UI set up completely for us, and on the next video we are going to do some amazing stuff. See you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome back to this video, this episode of the video. Okay, so on the last video we talked about the registration and the login. Now on this video I would like to do something real quick. Okay, I would like to include what is called Axios. Okay, and we have Ajax and we also have Axios. Okay, so Axios is a promise-based HTTP client for browser and for Node.js. So if you don't know about Axios, I would urge you to just Google Axios to JS. Okay, and you're going to see that right away. And if you cool using jQuery and Ajax, you can actually do that. Well, I just kind of like the way Axios works. Okay, and it lets you write async await code to perform XH request very easily. Okay, you can see that right here, and it supports all modern browsers, including support for Internet Explorer 8 and higher. So I think that's one reason for us to use Axios. I actually like the async await functionality. Okay, and it has this cool effect to what's it called, page, more like you see in the YouTube effect, whereby the page loading pace, okay, the page loading pace, you actually see the page loading pace in the top section of your browser. So right about now you just have to go to the documentation and read that. It's really a lengthy one. Okay, so to make things a little bit much easy, my dear students, I decided to create an Axios setup folder. Okay, and here there's a readme file that comes with a kind of guide on how to load this up. Okay, if you go to the documentation, it's really long to set up, but I just want to save us the headache. Okay, so we have the Axios loader CSS, Axios loader mean.js, and Axios loader.js. and after loading up this resource, you just have to include the script afterwards. So first of all, we just have to copy the two JavaScript file and go back to our what's it called project in our public with the assets, and in JS we're just going to paste that right there. Okay, so we have that, and close this guys up. Okay, close this guys up, and this guy, okay, and this guy, this guy. Okay, so let's just close this guy. Right, now later we just have to copy this. We are doing that right now. And the CSS, Control V, great. And then we have to include this somewhere. Okay, so but first we just have to go to index. Okay, right here in index, or in the main layout, sorry, I think that would be nice. And the main layout, the way we include this other JavaScript resource right here, we're just gonna do it right now. So like this, we're gonna have in JS Axios right here. Axios don't mean the JS. Axios don't mean the JS. And then we are going to have Axios loaded.js. Okay, and in the style section, okay, we are going to include Axios loader.css. And afterwards, we just have to copy this script tag and place it right here. Okay, I think we can just do it right here. Okay, my dear students, I hope that was actually simple enough. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is to go to the browser and go back to this page. That's our login page, and click on create one. Yeah, that's create a new account. I'm gonna view page source right now and make sure that the Axios loader CSS is loading correctly. So since I'm seeing this CSS resource right here, it means that's loaded up. And for the Axios loader JS and for the mean, so it's loading up correctly. So I'm gonna test run Axios to make sure that it's set up properly. Okay, and how I'll do that is to go to register. Okay, so quickly I'm just gonna give this an ID, say register, or I'm gonna use a DOM event, say on submit. Okay, return a function called register user. So we're gonna create the function right away. Okay, and I'm gonna pass in an event right there. Okay, and right here I'm going to say section. We're going to start a new section, and this time around it's going to be the script section. Okay, so I'm going to start the script tag right there, and I'm going to say function. Okay, passing the function name, accept the event parameter, event the prevent default. Okay, and then I'm going to say Axios dot get. I'm not going to pass anything. I'm just going to say dot then, and I'm going to use the fat arrow function. Okay, let's say maybe data, and I'm going to say console log data right there. Okay, so what we have right here is for this section. Okay, if you go to the main, we have script, yield script right here. Okay, so just like we did for the yield content, we are going to start a new section called script. Great. So we have a function register user, and on submit of this form, do that. So I'm just gonna have a type submit to this button. Okay, and then go back to the page. Hopefully if we don't have an error, this works just fine. Now if you notice, just because of the background color, just notice on this top section right here, you see there's a movement and there's something rolling right there. Okay, so that's because of the color I have in the Axios loader right here. Okay, so if you feel like, you can change it, okay, to something darker. Okay, choose, and we're just going to use that. Let's just play around with this. You can leave like that if you want to. I just feel like messing around with it. Okay, so let's just see how this goes. Okay, so that's bad. I'm just gonna leave it back the way it is. Great, guys. So this video was just to include Axios, okay, into our project, and we see that it's actually working. But if I check the console right here, it's actually not doing anything important. Okay, so next session of the video, we are going to start creating users and validating users input using Axios and Laravel. Okay, so see you on the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome back to this video. Now in this video, we would work more on this registration section, okay, and we're going to add some little validation to it. So right about now, I am going to go to register, and I'm going to add the name attribute to this input field. So I would say name, full name, or I'm just going to leave that as name, and then this, the name would be username, and this, the name would be password. Great. Now if you like, you can add an ID for the label, okay, but I'm just gonna leave it that way, and I wouldn't want to use this way the on submit document event. I'm just gonna use an ID. I'm gonna call this form or red form. Okay, great. Now for this, instead of this function, I'm going to say document dot on, okay, submit, watch for any submit event tied to this ID, then run this function. Make sure you pass in the event, okay, and then prevent the default behavior of the submit form. Then run Axios as a post request this time around with a route we haven't created but would soon create. So we'll call this register post, okay, and then we should pass a data. Okay, so we should create a let variable, and then we'll call this data. Okay, and this should be this event or this selector which we are working with, serialize its input. Okay, and this is the data we're passing from here right here. Now when this is sending, it does two things. It then returns success, which we are going to accept with the fat arrow function, or it returns an error which we are going to catch with the fat arrow function too, with the error variable or error parameter. Okay, so let's console.log this to see that we're having it all nice and good. Console.log error also. Now why I like to do this bit by bit is that we are humans and we're prone to mistake. Okay, so it's good for us to make this mistake beforehand and debug them than making them in the future where we get confused about what might actually be causing the problem. Now we also need to create a post route real quick. Okay, we didn't create one but we used one, so we are going to have an error if we reload that page because we don't have this created. So back to the auth controller, I'm going to say public function. We have this right here. I'm just going to return Hello. Great. So go back, reload, all nice. Go to the console, try to send this. We are having a problem right there, guys, because our form is reloading. Okay, so let's try to see if we can fix this. This is form ID, reg form event prevent document dot unselect. Everything seems to be fine. I wonder why we are having this. Let's see. Let's just say the moment we get here, just output something and reload. So let's see. Okay. I think this should be type of submit. Let's just see this in action. So bottom line is that we are not getting this. Okay, so because for the section, guys, I think I missed write that or spell that. We don't have the script. Okay, so we're gonna put that script right away, and we're having that. Okay, so that's good. And you see right here we have data hello. Good. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is take this alert off. Okay, and then I would want to show us about this in the network provider bar. Okay, then when we add the post request, look at the parameters it's sending in. Okay, the payload right here, which is the data is sending in, is actually serializing this. Okay, and the response it's receiving. That serialization we see is because of this serialization we see right here. Okay, passing it to the Axios post, which accept two parameters, the route and the inputs we are sending to such parameters. So right about now, I'm quickly going to do create more like a validation for this. Okay, so if you know about Laravel validation before, fine. If you don't, please just pay attention. Okay, and you're going to learn it. So I'm going to create two associative array kind of thing, and we're going to have rows. For the first, we're going to say name, and we're going to say required. Okay, and should be a string and should have a maximum input capacity of 120 words. And then we should have username, pretty much the same. We should have password. Okay, but this time around I would want the password to have a minimum of 6. Okay, and then we should have email. Okay, and this time around we don't need minimum for this, and instead of string we should pass email. Great. Now for messages, okay, we are going to create a custom message for this. Now if you know how to do this with Laravel, fine. If you don't, please still pay attention. We are going to say name.required. Okay, we're going to say this field is required. Okay, and for the name dot string, okay, if it's not a string, we'll say this field is invalid. Okay, and if it's too long, name dot max, we are going to say this field is too long. Okay, great. Now we're just going to duplicate this for the username. Okay, and I'm quickly going to change this to username. Okay, and we're going to duplicate this also for the password. Okay, password, and we're going to add a validation for the minimum. I'm going to say this, please enter a more secured password. Okay, and lastly, we're just going to duplicate this for email. We have required, we have string, we have maximum, okay, for email. And lastly, we have email for email. Okay, then I would say please enter a valid email address. Great. Next thing we want to do is to create a validation variable, okay, or validator variable, whichever one you would like to call it. So I'm going to call it validator, and I'm going to say validator, okay, validator. But this time around, we want to use it, okay, this should be a capital V. We want to use the facade, okay, and then we're going to say make a validation, okay, passing all the requests, okay, then also passing the rules and the messages. Great. So right about here we should also pass in the request, okay, and then we want to say an if condition or if statement. If validator, okay, fails, it's a boolean, it's required to also always return true or false. If it don't, just return all good, okay. And if the validation fails, we would want to return a response, okay, precisely a JSON response, okay, and we want to pass that as an associative array having the validator variable we created, and this time it's going to have errors. I always like to send a status code to the browser, okay, so we have 422, which is a kind of like authentication fails error. So required, we have all of this in place. Let's go test this and see. So right about now, you see we have 422 and we have this group of errors, name, username, password, email is all required. Name, username, password. I think we didn't add an email field to this registration form. Okay, so I'm just gonna do that real quick. Name, username, should have email right here. Okay, and just to test that this form is working, we should just enter something, okay, real quick, and send. And then we see that username field is required, okay, password, please enter a more secure password, and email, this field is required. I think we have issues with the name, username, email, password, name. Let's see this name, okay, this wasn't spelled correctly. Username, email, password. Okay, now let's go try this again. Send. Okay, now we have password, please enter a more secure password, and let's just try this. I think we should have only email validation error, please enter a valid email. And when we try to enter something that looks valid, you see we have all good. Great. Now on the next video, we'll start looking at these errors in the network bar and start outputting them right in our HTML document, okay, or in our view. So see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome back to this new episode of the video. Now in this video, we are going to start outputting those validation errors, okay, just in our view, okay. I think before now we are checking that in the network manager, which is not fair enough. So what I'll do is I'll go right here and I'll create a div class, okay, and I'm gonna have the class called, let's say, or I prefer div ID, and the ID is going to be name error name field. Okay, let's just call it name field. And I'm gonna copy this real quick right here, and I'm gonna call this username field. Okay, same goes for the email field, and for the password we have password field. Great. Now, apart from that, I'm just going to add a class called has error. Okay, as error to I think this would be nice if we added right in the input. So I'm going to say has error. Okay, just that one, and I'm going to style that up a bit. I'm going to say if we have such class, we should have a border of 2 pixels solid red. Okay, or I think 1 pixel would be better. 1 pixel solid red. Okay, and that's nice. That's fair enough. Great. So we're gonna put that in custom.css. Great. Okay, so now let's just take that out because this is gonna be dynamic for now. Now in this cache section, this is where we're catching the errors. Okay, so there's something we need to know. If I'm to refresh this page, okay, clear this guys out and try to submit, it is actually returning the response as an object of arrays. Okay, this is an object. You see the curly braces and you see the square bracket. So for JavaScript to actually process this, since this is in JSON, JavaScript can actually process this. Okay, right? We need to do something real quick. Now what I like to do is I like to create a function to process this separately so that my code doesn't get messy. So I'll create a function called print error message, okay, where I'm going to pass in error. Okay, I'm going to pass in the response or the error response we are getting from the controller. So it's going to be error the response, okay, dot data dot error. Okay, now this error right here is this error right here. Okay, so it came from the response. Remember the response, right? Right here, response. Okay, the JSON is being represented as the data because if you try to pass in kind of a parameter, the first parameter you have here, right, you see it's data and it has this error. So just to explain that. So next I'd like to create a function, and this function will be outside this whole code. So it will be function, we have that. Okay, so the next is I would like to accept this function, okay, as a message. Okay, so now let's just console.log this to make sure we are on track. Okay, so hopefully if we don't have any error, let's reload, we should see. Okay, now we have objects of the array right there. Great, we're amazing, guys. Now one thing we need to do is to start picking this object of the array one after the other. So I'm going to say if, making sure that we don't have an undefined. So if message is not equal to undefined, we want to do this. Okay, then I'm going to define a variable called object, which is going to hold object keys, object.keys, okay, of the message. Okay, great. And then I'm going to say if, I'm going to use this jQuery way of doing this. So I'm going to say in array. This is more like a jQuery prototype. Okay, so if you don't understand what that is, no problem. Just pay attention. You are going to understand. So jQuery in array, we're going to say name. If name is an array, okay, then we want to pass in the array, which is the object, okay, and say equals to now -1 if it's not in the array, okay, and I think it will return 0 if it's in the array. So I'm going to open a curly braces instead of closing that, and I'm going to have an else statement too. So jQuery in array name, okay, now this name is supposed to be a string, okay. So if in array jQuery blah, and we have that, there's this console.log right here. Yes, it is. Sorry, nope, it isn't. Okay, and console.log. Yes, it is. Great. So let's just view this. Hopefully, if we don't have any error. Okay, yes, it is. That means we have this name validation in it. Send again. Yes, it is. What happened if I fill in the name field? Submit. Nope, it isn't. So we see the validation is making sense, guys. Yes, it is making sense. So if yes, it is, okay, we have such error, we would want to say select, okay, the name field and add a class as error, which we styled initially. So right about now, I'm just going to say ID name impute, okay. So for this, we're going to say ID username impute, and for this ID email impute, and I think lastly ID password impute. Okay, so we are going to say select this ID and add class to it, add class as error to it. Okay, now if it doesn't, we need to remove the class from it. Great. So let's see this in action real quick, guys. I'm just gonna go right here, reload this page, and right there, continue. See, we have this, and the moment we enter and send, you see we don't have that. So apart from that, we still need to send or put in the message right there. Okay, so we're going to place this message in this name field div class, empty div class we created. Okay, so that was why we created it. And if it has the error, okay, we are going to select this name field, and in the HTML, okay, we are going to pass in the message. So we have the message, and in it as an array, we are going to pass a name, and we just want to pass in the first error. Okay, so the error has been saved one at a time, and if it doesn't, we are just going to leave this blank. Okay, remove that. So we could actually append a kind of div class to this to style this up a bit if we want to, okay, but I also think we could actually still do it this way as arrow. Okay, let's just leave it that way. Okay, I think we can actually have something like that as arrow to target this, but I think this would be the best and most easiest way to achieve this. So we're gonna concatenate this with a div, okay, and we're gonna have a class arrow, input. Let's just have that concatenate another, and we should close the div. Great. So let's do this in action real quick, guys. I'm just gonna clear this up, submit, and you see this field is required. Okay, now we have, and it's gone. Great. So I still need to style this up a bit because, okay, now I'm gonna style this error input div we just added. I'm going to say you should have a margin top of 10 pixel, a color of red, okay, font size decreased a bit, okay, and that's it, guys. So put this in the custom.css, and right about now I'm just going to duplicate this for the rest of it. Okay, so if you like, you could duplicate this, or if you like, you could make this reusable. Okay, so whichever one would work. I think I could actually make this reusable, okay, by saying right here I'm going to say another function called process error, okay, and I'm going to define the function here, function process error, and I'm going to paste that. Okay, now we're going to replace this first one with the name. Okay, so it's going to be a variable right now, name. Okay, then we're going to have a second one, which is the, so let's just pass that name right here. Now we're going to have a second one, which is the name input. Okay, we're going to have that as the input. Okay, so this is going to be input, and then we are going to have the third one as validation field. Okay, so right here, validation field. Great. So same thing goes to this validation field, and same thing goes to this input. Great. And for this guy right here, it's going to be the name. Great. So for the validation field, we were supposed to have this guy right here, name field. Okay, so I'm gonna pass this, and all things being equal, this is supposed to still work. So let's just go see this in action. Continue. We have a problem, obj is not defined. Okay, I think we should pass the obj first. Okay, and accept it right here. Okay, let's try this one more time. Message is not defined. Message is not defined. Let's still pass the message right here and accept it right here. Okay, and reload. Okay, so we have this. Now, one good thing about what I did right here is that it's going to limit the number of lines of code we write, but I think that's good enough. So process message is going to, the next one we want to do is to pass in the username. Okay, and the field is username field. In fact, it's pretty much going to be the same. This is going to be username. Okay, and this is going to be username, and this is username. And for the email, we have email. We have email right here, and I think we have email too. And for the password, we have password, and we have password. One thing is that if we were to repeat this line of code, it's going to be quite lengthy, so this makes it much more easier. So let's load this, and we have this amazing validation system working. Okay, so you see how amazing this is, guys. Please enter. Now this is telling us please enter a valid email. We didn't do this right. This is supposed to be password. Okay, so reload. Try, please, the field is required. Please enter a more secure password. Now the password is secure, and now this is also secured. Okay, great. Now, one more thing I want to say is that you see that the errors are handled one at a time. This field is required. Please enter a valid. Now, this is so because we actually entered this 0 right here, okay, as the index of the error message we are receiving. If not, we are going to have list of errors, okay, which I don't just like. I just like having the errors one at a time. So that's it, guys, for the session of the video. Now on the next session of the video, we are going to complete the registration process, okay, and I'll see you in the next session of the video. Bye bye. Welcome back, my dear students. Now on this session of the video, that's something I would just like to add. Okay, I'm just gonna Google Spinner CSS, okay, or let's just see, or loader CSS loading Spinner, or loading Spinner CSS, or something nice. Oh great, we have this guys right here. So I can click on this one, and we have the HTML right here. Okay, so just put that somewhere, but before I do that, I would like to copy the CSS. Okay, and this would be in custom.css, well placed, and then we should have this back. So what I want to do is, as soon as the user click on the button, I want to create a function, say load spinner, okay, and I'm just going to say, yeah, load spinner. Now what I want to do is that I'm going to say true, or I shouldn't do it that way. What I want to do is that as soon as this happens, we need to select the button, okay, the button attribute, which we're going to do, okay, no time, and the HTML, the inner HTML should be this spinner HTML we copied, okay. Now for this button, we have this to be the class right here, continue, what's it called, form login action, sorry, and it's a class or the div. So we want that to happen, and we're gonna make this reusable, okay, by saying load spinner is going to have this. So what we're going to do right now is just passing this as a parameter, okay, right here. So I'm going to be select, just let's just call this item, okay, and right here it's going to be item. Good. And for this guy, what we'll call the load spinner, okay, we're going to have it just like so, item. So this should be a function. Great. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this down so it's well organized. Now for the non-load spinner, okay, which is remove spinner, we are just going to leave this blank. Great. So Where are you? Remove spinner. Now we are not going to leave this blank. I'm sorry. We are going to pass in a message. Okay, the initial status of the button, and this is going to be the message right there. So when we click the button to submit the form, load spinner. Okay, now when we receive a response, be it good, be it error, that's be it positive message or error message, we still want to remove the spinner. Okay, so in the remove spinner, the first thing we want to send is the selector. So right about now, I am going to send in the selector that way, and the message. And the message we have right here, which is the initial one, is continue. So message should be continue. Okay, and also for this, now one other good practice you might want to have is when the spinner is loading, which is load spinner, you might also want to disable the input field. Okay, that's a good practice, so the user doesn't send any other request until the one previously sent has been validated. So just gonna say disabled and I'm gonna say true. Okay, and for the remove spinner, it's going to say false. Okay, make sure you use true and false. Great. Now let's just see this in action. Hopefully there's no error. You see we have that. Now one thing, if you notice, is that as soon as you click on the button, it becomes inactive. But one thing is that the spinner kind of is not well placed, so I'm just gonna remove this guy right here. Okay, so that I could set up the spinner correctly. So the height, I'm just going to reduce this to 22 pixel and the width 20 pixel. Okay, but we still have some problems. For the top, let's just see, take this up. Yes, that's it. Okay, and do we have anything for the left? No, we don't. We can actually put one, say left 10 pixel. Some reason won't work because I noticed it's actually not in the right position. Let's say margin 0 auto, text align center to see. I'm just gonna leave it that way. Okay, so for this, we are going to place that right here to what we have 2020. Okay, and for this div, for left, I think that's nice, but for this, it's going to have a top like so. So let's just see this in action, and that should be again for the div absolute. Okay, just replace this. Okay, yep. And so when I click on this, we have that nice. I can still reduce this if we want. Let's take it to 15. Okay, great. So after this, I would want to put back this guy right back the way it was and reload. So when we click on continue, you see we have this amazing effect, loading and the rest. Okay, my dear students, I think this video is long enough. Okay, on the next video we're going to complete the registration process. Okay, so see you on the next video. Bye bye. Welcome back, my dear students. Now in this session of the video, I'm going to continue with creating a user. Now usually I like doing it this way to create a new instance of the user. Okay, you can actually do it this way or any way you like. So I'm just gonna go ahead using this way, and I'm gonna say name is equals to the request name which we are passing, and then I'm going to say username is equals to the request of the username we're passing, and then I'm going to say password is going to be hash make request of the password we're passing, and then I'm going to say email is equal to the request of the email we're passing, and then we need to save the data. Great. And when we save this data, we want to return a response of JSON, which is data. Okay, so we're going to say success. Okay, and account created successfully. Great. So let's just give this the right spelling. Good. And apart from that, we would need to set another one called redirect link. Okay, and for the redirect link, we would have perhaps this to say we would have route. Okay, and we'll call this index. So this should take us to the home the moment we create our account. So let me import this hash week. Okay, right here we need to import this right here, the hash facade. Okay, so this should create real good for us, but I just need to make sure that we have on the same page with our database and migration. So right about now, I'm just going to go to the user migration, and in the username and the what's it called, the table, I'm going to add the username, which I just did right here. Okay, then apart from that, in my .env variables, I need to create what's it called, a database. So I'm going to call this database fellowship. We haven't created that, so we are going to create that in localhost php my admin, and I'll say new, enter the database name, create, and nice. So let's go back and try to say php artisan migrate. Great, and this is migrated successfully for us. So I can try to load this again, and let's try to create an account. This time around, we should open the network toolbar. Okay, and should enter a password. That's quite long, just a random account. Okay, try to create. We have a 500 error, route index not defined. Home, it's supposed to be home, sorry, not index. So we should call this home. Great. So if I try to create again, we have a duplicate entry, which means that we didn't set a unique field for the username. Okay, so let's just say unique users. Okay, and then for the password also we need to have unique, and for the email, sorry, users table. So this is going to be unique to the users table, both of them. So continue. Now we have this email has already been taken, and that, let's try to create another one, and now we have 200. So we have first a success message, account created successfully, and we have a redirect link which would take us back to the other place, which where we want the user to go. So next thing I want to do is to use a kind of notification called Notiflix. Okay, I kind of like the notification system. So Netflix, it's a JavaScript library. So you can download Netflix from here. It's pretty much simple to use. Just download, okay, and then we open the zip file. We should say better to use the unified, okay. So copy this out. I think we have, and then we go to JS and paste this in, okay. And then we take the CSS to the CSS portion. Great. And just to be on the safe side, I'm just gonna copy this name so I would link them properly. So back to the main layout, okay, just perhaps after the Axios, I'm going to say script, okay, src. Let's link up the script first, and I'm going to say assets. Going to the assets folder slash js, then slash Netflix, mean the js, okay. And then we should do that for styles as well. So I should paste this in. Great. Now let's go back and make sure that this resource is loaded correctly. Okay, so click on this. We're saying this code means it's loading, and click on this. We're saying this code means it's loading. Great. So I'm gonna reload that, and we're going to check on how to use maybe a report or confirm. Let's just see any of them. Okay, so this is how we use a confirm. Confirm is yes or no. A report, this is like a success. So we say this. Well, we're going to test run this real quick and see that it works just the way we want. And one of the best way I like to test run is just to add it maybe somewhere here. Well, I think we didn't copy that right. Let's just copy this, copy code and paste. Okay, so let's just quickly test run that it works just fine. So we should see a kind of notification. Okay, so you see we have this right here. Okay, great. So what we need to do is to have this as the notification system, okay, but not right there. Before we use that, so to post this then, which is the success we are having data, we need to make sure that we are getting the right what's the call from it. So when we try to register, okay, we should store the kind of response we have from it. Okay, so we're not doing any magic or username. So data, see we have data right again, and we have this redirect and success, meaning that I am going to go into data, okay, and for the success we're going to use the text in the success as our notification message. Okay, so right about now I'm going to do that. Okay, so the text in the success would be our notification message. Then I think we should have okay right here. Great. Now apart from that, we need to redirect the user, but we want this notification to show for some time before we redirect the user. So literally we're just going to say a set timeout, okay, and it's going to be a function, yes, with a callback of how long. Let's just say 4 seconds, or this is 3 seconds, it's okay, and say it's going to delay. And as soon as the delay take us to window.location, take us to the location of the redirect which we should go. So redirect, I think we can find that here. Redirect link. Okay, so redirect link. Great. Now we should jazz up this success message a little bit. Account created successfully. Please do not leave the page. Page would automatically refresh. Okay, so we should have some like, whoa, account created successfully. Great. So let's go back to this real quick, reload and enter something nice, create a random sum just for test purpose. Continue. We have the success. Whoa, account created successfully, and bam, you see it takes us to the login page automatically by itself. Now when it takes us to the login page automatically by itself, we also want to set a session, kind of like a flash session that says reg success, okay, and say please log in to continue. Okay, great. So now for this reg success, we're going to go to our login page. Now all of these things we're doing is to give the site a kind of nice user experience, okay, and I hope we're learning a thing from it. As if session has reg success, okay, we also need to end our if with delete templating engine. So we say session get reg success. We should have a div class say success notes, okay, and then we should have that. So let's go back and try to register, okay, again, random create, okay, account created successfully, and bam, we have this. So we have please log in to continue. Now we should make this a little bit more fancy by styling this up. So we're gonna have margin bottom 20 pixel, background red, give it some little padding. Okay, I think that's too much, and this is nice. Decrease the size a bit, give it a little bit border radius of 3 pixels. Okay, I think 2 pixels will be okay, and then we should have this background color change to something friendly. Okay, I think I would prefer this blue. Okay, and there seemed to be a pattern from somewhere pushing this. No problem, we'll get that fixed. The custom, just gonna put this down. Okay, now for this guy, we can actually drag this to maybe the row, but that's not nice. We put it right here, still not nice. Now what happened if we put a form row? Okay, now this is nice. Okay, so we could do something, say for this page, we are going to put this in div class in a row. Okay, so it just stay with the others. So let's reload this, go back. We have the success. Yes, we do. Try to submit, and let's submit. No matter what you do, just leave it, and okay, please log in to continue. Now this is great, guys, and that's it for the create account. Okay, we can now successfully create account. Okay, and one other thing is that when you always come to this page, you see your full name and everything there. If you don't want that to always prefill, just come here and say autocomplete off. Okay, so whenever you reload the page, it's all gone. So guys, I'll see you in the next session of the video where we're going to be repeating the same task or process for our login. Okay, so now we've created an account successfully. We need to log in. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session of the video. Now in this episode or this session, we are going to talk about the login. Okay, so on the last video we talked about the registration, and we finished the registration purpose, so the function. Now for the login, it's pretty much going to be easy because we already have a lot of function written down already from the registration. So I'm going to have a post route for login, okay, because the login is the home route, and for some reason we shouldn't post to the home route. I just don't like posting to the home route. Okay, so we're just gonna have a post and say post route and say login post. Okay, and same for this one, login post. So we create this in the public. Okay, public function, and we have that. Okay, so we're gonna pass in request, and then we are going to copy from here to here. We don't have to rewrite. Okay guys, we don't have to rewrite this, but I think we are actually placing that in the right position. So right now it's placed properly. It's to place as well. Great. Okay, so we have this all set. Now for login we use the username and the password, so same validation goes required, and just that for the password. Okay, if the password is, we're just gonna leave it this way. Okay, just leave it that way, and we're not having unique because now it's to login. Okay, even the maximum is not required, but let's just leave it that way. So name is all gone, and so is email, and so is minimum. Okay, so we're golden. Now if validation fails, that if it doesn't fail, just return all good. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is to go to the registration page, and we're just going to copy all of this, guys, and then we'll remove the ones we don't need. So back to the index, paste that right in there, and for the login we're going to change this to login post. Okay, and the soonest I need to confirm this is continue. Okay, so we're going to leave that, and for this one we just need to validate the username and password alone, so we're going to take these two off. Okay, so now for this one we don't need this. Okay, and I think we could still find a good notification to use, kind of, for this Notiflix. Let's just click to try. Okay, I think I like this. Copy. That's nice. And processing is also nice. I think processing is better. Okay, so when this comes up successfully, we don't want to give what's it called, a box, confirmation box kind of thing, and neither do we want those stuff. So this is great and nice. Okay, so we just have to set up our input field right now, guys. So go to register, and we'll have this for username field and password field. So the index right here, we have this, and for password we have this. Okay, so we also have the ID and the name. Okay, right here, ID and the name. And for password, we also have the ID and the name as well. Okay, great. And for this one, we should make sure that it's password field also. Great. So now let's go try this out and see. Well, okay, so we have one more thing to correct right here. We should have an ID. Okay, remember we have this one, reg form. We're gonna call that ID login form. Okay, so copy that and paste it right here. And also remember to off autocomplete. Yes, of autocomplete. And now let's reload and continue. So this is great, guys. See, exactly the same. You should name this field is required, this field is required. And then, so let's just go create an account real quick. I'm gonna go call the name, your instructor name, Oziri Emeka Emmanuel. And for the username, I would say Oziri. The password is Oziri Emeka. The email address is oziriemeka@gmail.com, my official email address. And for the password is 123456. So remember username, Oziri, and the rest. So let's save that. And so we have please log in to continue. So I'm gonna say this is Oziri, and this is 123456. So let's open the network notification bar to see this in action. Continue. Okay, so you see we have this awesome processing right there, and we should see all good. Great. Now to continue the the validation for the login, we're going to put that in the next video. This video is long enough, so see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session of the video. Now in this episode or this session, we are going to talk about the login. We are going to talk about logging out, okay, from our application, and also setting up some authentication middleware. Now in the last video we segregated the login interface, okay, from the authenticated interface. So right now for username, I'm going to say Oziri, okay, and login. So as soon as this is done, we need to have a logout button somewhere. Okay, so quickly we will just create one. Okay, so I think this is not bad. I can say RF. Okay, and I'll call this logout, and I'm gonna have a class say logout action. Okay, then reload. Great. So for this logout action, I'm gonna say display inline block. Okay, and I'm gonna say the width should be more like 30 pixel, height 30 pixel. Then we should have a background of red. Okay, and a border radius of 3 pixel. Great. So definitely the width should be more than that, and it should be text align center. Okay, then color should be white. Okay, then I think that's good enough. For the height we can go even less. Oh, that's okay. And most especially we should be position absolute and right to 0. Okay, right should be 0 definitely, or 20, let's just say 10 pixel, and top 10 pixel. Okay, so just before that we have that we still just want to have 5 icon, that's font awesome icon, sorry. And back to our code, I just pasted in the font awesome icon. Okay, so I just don't want to go take a lot of time through the design process. Okay, and for this itemize inner, we should have position relative. Okay, so let's try that again. Position relative, and then let's reload this. Great. Okay, so we have this beautiful, very beautiful logo button right there. Still trying to customize this. Too bad I'm a perfectionist in styling, and I tend to take a lot of time trying to style things to look good. Okay, but I actually think this is nice. Okay, so font size, I'm gonna share perhaps this. Okay, this style too, just in case you need it. Okay, so we have, where was the logout we were designing? We're just gonna replace the whole of this code with this. Okay, so now let's reload this, and we have this beautiful logout button right there. Okay, so we need to create another middleware. Okay, so instead of writing, just save time and duplicate. Now this time for the middleware, it's gonna be auth. Okay, you can check kernel, this kernel right here, auth middleware, to get to know more about that, or you could just Google it. And then I'm going to create a get route, so I'm just going to duplicate this. And for the logout, there's a way I actually do that. Now you can actually log out, create your own logout functionality the way you want. Okay, but I just like to rely on Laravel's way of logging out. Okay, so what I do is I would use their default logout. So it's going to be auth slash forward slash login controller. Now there is a default controller generated for us by Laravel, login controller. Okay, and in this login controller, it uses an abstract class called authenticates user. Now when you go to this authenticate user, or it uses a trait, let me just call it a trait, authenticate user, you see that there is login, validate login, and if you go down we should have logout. So this is how it logs out request to the user session, it invalidates it, and a whole lot of things. So we've got this in place for the logout. I'm using this as a get request. Okay, you could change that to a post request if you want to, but for now I'm just gonna leave that. Definitely it would be good practice for logout to be a post request instead of a get request. So we have route, logout, and nice. So when I click on logout, we are logged out. Okay, and now let's try to log in again. We would be logged in. Now we are logged in. So finally, for my name, I am just going to say auth, okay, user, then I'm just going to say name. Okay, so we have the real name there. So let's try to log out and log in. So I believe this is my real name there. Great. So guys, I think that's pretty much it for this video. Now in the next video, we are going to start implementing our main functionalities, which is the follow functionality. But so guys, I'll see you in the next video, guys. If you're new to this, just stay put. You're doing awesome. Okay, you're building a really professional application. I'm taking to you through industry standard, and if you can see, the process so far is quite simple, though quite a long one. Okay, but it's quite simple if you pay right attention, and it's very professional. Okay, this is what you see for big sites and the rest. Okay, they're not doing anything marvelous or superb than whatever thing we're doing right now. Okay, but if you're already a professional, hey buddy, I hope you learned the two or thing from my video. Okay, and let's continue. See you on the next video. Bye bye. Hello, welcome back my dear students to this episode of the video. Now in this episode of the video, I want to do something real quick. Okay, I want to create some database seeds. Okay, so we don't go through the process of creating. Okay, because things are really getting serious in our application. So right about here we have user factory. Okay, we have name, email there, a whole lot of them. So for the user, I'm just going to create a new user, and I'm going to say insert. Okay, so that I can um insert multiple records. Okay, just like so, or you can use create, but I think we should just use create. Okay, to make things a little bit more easier. So we need to enter name, and I'm gonna be the first user, so it's gonna be Oziri Emeka Emmanuel, and for email it's going to be Oziri Emeka at gmail.com. Okay, for username it's going to be Osiri. Then for password we are using hashmake. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5. I think that was 5. Yes, I think, oh 6, sorry, it should be 6. Great. Now just before this, in the migrations table, the user migration table, I like to add a field called avatar. Okay, and I'm going to give it a default of no avatar, the PNG or the JPG, but I'm just gonna leave it that way. Okay, because we're not going to be using it a lot of times. So email verified at it's nullable. We can actually work with this. Password, email, username, and name. Okay, so I think this is all we need. So back to the database seeder, we need to import the hash, this hash facade, and then let's try again to do this for create another user. Okay, but for avatar we need to enter something. Okay, now if you go to your asset folder, your asset folder in public assets and image and users, you see some avatars which I left there for us to use. Okay, well for me I think I prefer the avatar 3 to be mine. JPG. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it that way. JPG. Avatar 3 to JPG for me. Then I'm pretty much going to do this for the other users pretty fast. This is it. And for this two, and okay, so for name, I'm hoping that this is okay. This is a man, so I'm going to say this is John Doe. Okay, and the email is johndoe@gmail.com. The username is John Doe. The password is the same. Okay, and 3, that's me. 1, it's a man. I'm gonna call this David Von Grace. Okay, for the email, David, username, David, avatar is okay. This is David 1 and 2, still remains the same. And for the fourth one, it's a woman. We'll call this Rose Geraldine. Okay, Geraldine. Nice. And the email is going to be rose@gmail.com. The username would be Rose, and this would be avatar for the JPG. I don't know if I spelled this Geraldine correctly, but I sincerely, I'm sorry for spelling it that way. So let's continue. For the fifth one, I'm going to call this Linder. Okay, Linder James. And the email is going to be Linder. The username is going to be Linder. And the picture is going to be 5. 4 more to go, guys. This is a man. I'm going to call this Frederick Charles. Okay, so the email is going to be Frederick at Gmail. I think I'm having some issues with Frederick at gmail.com with the email. Okay, so this is supposed to be Linda at gmail.com and Rose. Okay, that's nice. And the avatar is supposed to be 6. Okay, so this is 7. Oh, there's 7. A female. So I'll call this Ruth. Ruth Paul. Okay, and the name is to be Ruth. The email address and the username is to be Ruth. Okay, and the avatar 8. No, 7. Sorry. So for the 8th one, a female. We should have this as. Oh, seriously, I've read her name. Elizabeth Joe. Okay, Elizabeth Joy. That's nice. Elizabeth at Gmail, and the username is Elizabeth. So for the 8th one, okay, I think that's for the 8th one already. Yeah, this is for the 8th one already. So last but not the least, we have a guy. What name should it be? We'll use my pet name and my last name, Leon Emmanuel. So that will be Neon. Username will be Neon, and avatar will be avatar9.jpg. but we having an issue right here in the spelling. So this should be spelled correctly. I'm just going to mass replace them. Okay, this is supposed to be spelled password correctly. Great, good thing I figured that out. If not, we would have faced a problem in the what's called later session of this video. But let's continue, guys. So we got the seeder up and running. So I'm just going to say PHP artisan migrate fresh. I think we already have that. Migrate fresh. Okay, then PHP artisan db seed. So database seeding completed successfully. Okay, so let me reload, try to log in Oziri, and password is running. Great, this is great. Okay, so for this, what's it called, image, we should have assets. Okay, always remember to do it that way. Image users, and I'm going to concatenate this, okay, to the authenticated user avatar. Okay, great. Now method to string is not, I understand what you mean by that, but I'm just going to reload, and bam, we have that. So if I were to log in and to sign in with root, having password 126, okay, we see this changes successfully, and we have a report right here. Okay, so with that, guys, I think we are golden, guys. Okay, so the next session of the video, we are going to create our model where we'll start implementing the follow for follow business logic. So see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new episode of the video. Now in this video, we will go straight to the important business logic in our fellowship application. Now this is really an easy application to build. Okay, the follow for follow application is quite easy if you understand the logic and concept behind it. Okay, most programming tasks are simple. All we have to do is to process or to know beforehand the logic to use in accomplishing it. And once we get the logic, we'll be able to build anything we want as long as we can think it. Yes, I mean anything we want as long as we can think about it. So straight up, I'm going to go to PHP Storm and I'm going to open a new terminal. Okay, just close this. Great. So remember guys, if you're new to Laravel, you have to start up XAMPP, Apache, and MySQL every time. If not, you would have an issue. Okay, so I'm going to create a model. So I'm going to say PHP artisan make model, and I'm going to call this model fellowship. Okay, and then I'm going to add the dash m flag, okay, so as to create a migration with it. Great, so we've got this up and running. Now in my database folder, I'll go to migrations and I click on fellowship. This is the one we just generated. Okay, now there are two columns we need for this follow for follow application. Okay, and the first column would be the user ID 1, okay, and then the second column will be user 2 ID. Okay, user 1 ID and user 2 ID. So this is going to be big undefined big integer. I like to use that. Okay, and also undefined unsigned big integer. Great. Now just to explain why we're using this, the user 1 ID, okay, is going to indicate followers, okay, when you are actually following somebody. and the user2 ID is going to indicate the person you're following. So what this means is that if, for instance, root is the user2 ID and Oziri is the user1 ID, it means that Oziri is following root. Okay, that's what it means. And if root, on the other hand, okay, is the user1 ID, that means that root is following Osiri. Okay, so that's just the concept, following and followers. Okay, so that's why we have this UI right here, followers. In this case, Oziri Emeka Emmanuel is what following you, and following means that in this time in the database table, this particular user would be the user2 ID. Okay, now let's get this started and see this in action. Okay, but before I do this, I would just like to create a database seed. Okay, this is how I like to do mine. Okay, so I'm just gonna duplicate this, or I'm just gonna write a new one. So I'm going to say, just after the user right here, I'm going to say this would be user1. Okay, and this would be user2. This would be user3. Great. And user4. And I'm just going to leave it that way. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is to say fellowship. Okay, app / fellowship, and I'm going to create, okay, just like I did for the user. And this time around, I'm going to say user1. Okay, user1 ID is equal to, I'm going to say ID user1. Okay, and I'm going to get an ID from it, and the user2 ID I'm going to give that way. Now I want to create a couple of followers to my account, okay, so we can test run this. That's the purpose of this. So my ID, which is Oziri, is 3. Okay, sorry, is 3. So I'm just gonna put it this way. So what this means is that if I put it this way, 3, that means this user1 ID, okay, which is, I think my ID is actually 1. Sorry, 1. That means this user1 ID, or I'm going to change this to 2 right now because I'm already user1. This user1 and user2 ID is actually following me. Okay, so when I start updating that on my database, it's going to be on my followers. Okay, so that's what it means. Great, now let's do this again. Okay, and this time around we're going to change it to 3. Okay, and this time around we're going to change it to 4. And this was supposed to be user1. I think there's not supposed to be an underscore right there, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna make it up to 5. Okay, and 6. Great. So we have user2, user3. Okay, we didn't start for 1 because I am user1. And here we would have user4. Okay, and then would have user5. Okay, and then for followers, I'm going to create another one, and this time around I'm going to be user1. Okay, great. And user6 is going to be user2. Okay, great. Now I'm just going to run PHP artisan migrate fresh. okay, to run a fresh migration. And then I'm going to seed this migration, PHP as in DB seed. Great, so we got this up and running. Now if I reload this, we won't actually see any difference, okay, but no problem. And I think that's pretty much it on this video. I'm trying to keep it short as possible, okay, so it doesn't get boring at this point. So guys, that's it on this video. I think there's one more thing we need to do, okay, just before I cut this short off. I'm going to create another migration real quick, and I'm going to call this migration notification. Okay, so for the notification migration, we'll have this. I'm going to create a model and notification and what's a call for it, and migration for it. And for this, we are going to have user ID, okay, and then we're going to have title, and then we're going to have content. So for this, we're going to keep it at unsigned big integer, and for the title, string is well enough, and for the content, we should have long text. Great. So right about now, migrate fresh again, or I'm just gonna zoom migrate instead of migrating fresh. Great, and we got that in play. So that's it, guys. We just successfully created our database migrations models, and we also seeded some fellowship data. Now on the next video, we are going to start implementing this. So things is getting really interesting, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello, welcome back my dear students to this new episode of the video. Now in the last video we created some migrations, some model and also some database seed, and now on this video we are going to create or start outputting this data, okay? So this is the kind of flow I like to do when creating applications on Laravel. I like to seed my database, okay, with some dummy data and then output them, and then before writing my business logic. Okay, so let's just go ahead, we'll do that real quick. There's a lot to do, guys. So first of all, I want to advise you to write PHP codes in your view. Okay, it is not advised, and we are going to write a code in a controller. So remember, if auto check, if the user is logged in, we want to send this view. Okay, so we will be sending all of our data into this view. So the first one we want to do is to provide data for this list, which is the followers, following, and notification. So right away would say followers is equal to, so we're going to go to the following table or fellowship table, okay, where would say user, okay, one ID is not equal to to the authenticated user ID. Okay, so we want to get that. Okay, so for this instance, we want to get the user one ID, okay, where it's not equals to that, and we want to get that, so we can, okay. And for the following, this is where you are following a user, so we want to say where is equal to the authenticated user ID. We also want to get that, and we also want to get notification. Okay, so we go to notification model where the concerned user ID is equal to your ID. So we can skip this equal to right there, and we're just going to see the authenticated user ID. Okay, so after that we can also get. Now we're going to send this to the view using compact. Okay, so we're going to enter this as so following, and then notification. Great. So after that, we are going to go to logged in. Where is logged in? Where is logged in? This is it. Great. Now we're gonna receive this data right here. Say for notification, we're gonna receive a variable called notification in our view. And if I'm to, sorry, I was supposed to die dump that. If I was supposed to die dump it, let's go back. We have an undefined variable notification. Let's see if we spell that correctly. Notification. Okay, so let's try again. Okay, you see we have this right here. Okay, great. Now this is good. We can also still pass this variable right here, okay, to the dashboard passes. We can just create an array and then paste in the notification variable we created. Okay, we can do it like this. Just create an array and paste in right there. Or we can also still use compact. Okay, compact, and then we do like so. Okay, so that's one, but we need to place this, okay, in the dashboard. Okay, I think that's the right place. So go back to dashboard, and then I'm gonna come right here, and in this place we're going to say notification. Okay, I think this is the best way to get this spelled out correctly. Great. So we're gonna have the variable notification, and then we can just say count. Okay, so let's just see this in the browser real quick. Reload, and then we have 0 notification. Nice. Okay, so we'll do the same thing for following and for followers real quick. So right here we're gonna have following. Okay, and right here we are going to have followers. Great. So one other thing to do is in the logged in index view, we need to also pass this compact right here. Okay, now this method I'm using is just for us to have kind of like a well structured code. Okay, so if you like, you could actually use any method you find best, but I just kind of like doing this method. So I'm gonna copy this, right guys, right here, followers, and we should also have following. I just went to copy and paste. I don't know why I am not just spelling it correctly today. So let's go back and see this. So we have followers 4 and following 0. Followers and following. Let's go back to this. This is supposed to be where user ID fellowship, where user ID 1 is not equals to the authenticated user, and for fellowship where you are following, where user ID 1 is equal to the authenticated user. Let's see. Okay, great. I know that we in the database seed we created, we were actually following one person, and then we got this correctly right now. So one other thing I like to do is this people right here. I like to just create run real quick for it. Okay, so back to logged in index, and we have this people right here. Okay, so go back to my alt controller. I'm just gonna create this, duplicate that rather, and then I'll say user real quick, and then right here I would say user. Okay, and I'm just gonna get all user, just get all user, and then I will pass this right here, user. Great. And in my logged in index right here, I'm going to have this user, and I'm going to have count. Okay, great. So let's go see that real quick to see how things goes. Okay, so we have 9 users in application, and what I think can we do, guys? We need to appute a name right here. So we're going to say the authenticated user name. Okay, and for our avatar, we have to show our user avatar right here. So we have to create one real quick, to make up one real quick, I mean. So I'm gonna say asset and as a function, and then pass this, okay, concatenate with the authenticated user, okay, avatar. Great, so this should work properly. Let's just see this in action real quick. Reload. Great, so this is working just fine, and it's all generated from the dashboard. So guys, that's pretty much it on this video, and in the next video we are going to talk about this followers and following. Okay, so see you on the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to the session of the video. Now in this session of the video we are going to talk about the followers. Okay, so I'm going to go to my what's it called, code editor real quick, and then go to followers right here. Okay, so remember that we are sending this data, okay, through compact right here. Okay, so right about now we're just gonna copy this, since we're going to followers, okay, and I'll paste that in. Sorry, please permit me to off flux. Okay, it's just changed the screen brightness and resolution of my computer, and it's affecting my eyes. Okay, so we have compact. We're not gonna push in notifications to it. We're gonna push followers and following. Okay, I think we're not even gonna push following, just followers. Okay, and for this guy we are gonna push following. Okay, and for this guy we are gonna push people. For followers, we're gonna push this guy following. Okay, great. So let's go set this in our browser real quick, and I'm just gonna reload this. We have an unexpected string. Where is this from? Okay, I need to close that. Okay, let's check this. Still have another error. Undefined variable people. I think we were supposed to move users, not people. Users right here. So this was supposed to be users. So go back to a browser, make sure we have no error. Great. So back to the followers. Okay, we are going to go back right here. Now what we have to do is just to find a single block of what's it called, sample right there, and we're going to run a loop through that sample and do some what's it called, display them to the user in the view. Okay, so we're going to take away this other data, this other what is it called, data right here, and we just take a single block, loop through them, and do our magic. So we'll set this in action real quick. So if you notice, while I was speaking with you, I was actually closing the gutters of this block of code, this block of HTML code, and I deleted it just to the final one. Okay, so discontinue. So I'm gonna take this guy right down. Okay, so we can see clearly, and for this guy we still got to take you down. Great. So the next thing to do, guys, is to run a each loop. Okay, and if you notice right now, our code starts from here. Okay, the div class list and the rest. So before I like to run my each loop, I need to check. I'm gonna say at if, okay, we are sending in, I think, followers. Okay, we can say count is greater than 0. Okay, or we can check if it's empty, whichever one we want to do, but I just like to do it the count way. So we're going to say and if, and before we do that we need to run an else statement, and then we just have to say maybe a div class no followers found. Okay, or no report found. Let's just say no report found. Okay, since we're going to use this, you do not currently have any followers. Okay, let's just have it right there. And next I want to do is to run a for each loop. So I'm going to say add for each, okay, followers, okay, as we're gonna call this item. Great. And here I'm gonna run another for each loop. I'm gonna say end for each. Okay, and now for the item right here, okay, for the name I am going to say item, and we're gonna get the user, okay, and we're gonna say name. Now this user right here is an eloquent model which we haven't created, and we're going to create that real quick. Okay, so instead of user, I'm just going to say user1. Just pay attention, okay? You get the whole logic in no time. And right here I'm going to do the same. Okay, so real quick guys, I'm just going to say we have this. I'm going to say create my blade assets, paste that in, concatenate that with the item user1, okay, avatar. But we need to make sure that we are dealing with the user1 for the followers, okay, for the followers way. Great, so let's go back to the followership model right here, okay, and real quick I'm going to create a new method. Okay, I'm going to say public function, I'll call this user1, okay, and I'm going to return this belongs to the user class, okay, and we're gonna call the foreign key to be user1 ID, okay, and this to be ID. Okay, so I think we should just do that right now, and let's see this in action. So go back to followers, we have user1 and the rest. Okay, so hopefully let's just hope this works and see how it turns out. Followers, okay, so we've got this. We've got 4 followers: John Doe, David Vargas, Rose Garadine, and Linda James. Great, so we can actually output a kind of count if we want to, but no problem. But what I want to do right now is I'm just gonna take this particular step I took for the followers to the following. Okay, so from the followers right here to the following. So back here, I'm first go to my followership. Okay, I want to create or duplicate this model. Okay, and I'm gonna call this user2, and we're gonna change this to user2. Okay, and back to the following. We just have to take all of these guys out real quick. Okay, so we got that out, and for this guy I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm going to say at if we have the following variable, okay, I'm going to count it with a count function is greater than 0. We want to do that, else we're going to say at else, okay, and then we add at end if. Okay, so great, we're just gonna repeat this else right here in the following. Okay, you don't currently have any, or you are not currently following, you are not currently following anyone. Great, and for this guy we need to run a for each loop. Say for each following as, let's just say item 2. I like to segregate my code like that. Okay, so let's just have this, and we should have at end for each. Okay, so hopefully this is right, and right here we should just have the same thing. We'll go to item 2, and then we go to user2, and then we go to name. And for this guy we are going to have assert this and concatenate to item 2, user 2, and avatar. So let's see. So followers, we have this for, and for following, okay, we have Frederick Charles. I'm following just one person, Frederick Charles. That's nice. And followers, we have this, and people, we have that count. Okay, so profile, we have this count on good. That's great, guys, and I think that's pretty much it. We have this already planned out. Okay, see, for followers, okay, followers, that's the people following you. We have John Doe following you, okay, and we have following for the people you follow. We have followed right here, and the rest. So that's it for this video, guys. On the next video, we are going to talk about the people. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session of the video. Now in this video, we are going to talk about the people tab. Okay, so we've done for the followers, we're done for the following, and now we are in the people. So real quick, guys, I think we already have a variable in our view, the logged in view, called the user. Okay, so go back to people, and I'm just going to collapse this, go to real quick, and get off this unused HTML codes. Okay, great. So just gonna take them off. Okay, so back here we are going to take that down, and also this guy. So just like we did for the followers right here, you see we did an if count to check, and we did a for each loop. Before the people, we're not going to do an if count because there needs to be a user. Okay, we must be an authenticated user to accept this page and all these pages, this following followers in the dashboard. So we don't have to count because we need to be a user. If not, we are not going to access this page. Okay, so it's as easy as that. So right away, guys, I am just going to run a for each loop real quick. I'm going to say for each. Okay, so let's see. Okay, for each user as item 3. Okay, and I'm going to end my for each right here at end for each. Okay, and right here I am going to say for the item 3, we are going to have the name. Since we're already in the user model, we don't have to create the user 1 or user 2 like we did for the followers and for the following. Okay, so I hope you understand that. If you don't, you need to learn Laravel, my friend. Okay, you need to go back and learn about models and Eloquent, but we're not talking about that in this video. So we're just gonna access avatar real quick. Great, and this is supposed to be in the asset function. Okay, so let's do this. Now let's just go view this real quick. I'm just gonna reload, go to people, and we have all of this. But I think we didn't do that correctly. So this for each is supposed to be right here, and this guy down here. So let's go view this again, reload people, and we have this up and running. Okay, so now if you notice this, we have the image quite all right, and for the follow, okay, we are having just the same button, follow, and the rest. Now we need to kind of display if we're already following this user or not. Okay, so to do this real quick, we need a helper function. Okay, and to create one in the app folder, I'm gonna create a new folder called helpers, and I'm gonna create a file in it called helpers. php. Great. So the essence of doing this is to create a global variable that, or a global function that will be accessed throughout our application. So I'm going to create a function real quick called fellowship, or is following, since we already have fellowship. Okay, great. And for this, I'm just going to return say hi. Okay, I think that's good. And in the composer, I'm going to have in the composer the JSON. We need to include this in the autoload. So right here, I'm going to add a comma. Okay, and we need to use double quote, guys. Save files, and then we have an array, and then we're going to put the helpers we created. Okay, I think that's helpers slash helpers.php, but we need to go to the app directory. Great. Now, if this turns out that correctly for us, all we have to do is to say PHP, composer dump autoload and hit the enter key. So this is going to generate a new composer autoload file for us, and it's going to include the function we created. So right about now, if I just go to see right here, just to test things up, and I say dump, I'm going to say is following. Okay, and go back to my code, we should see the hi. Okay, so we have the hi right here. Great, so this is working just fine. So what we have to do right now is to pass in a kind of variable called id, in this is following. Okay, and then we need to create an if statement. So I'm going to say if we're going to go to the fellowship model, okay, where the user1 id, okay, is equal to the id which we're passing, and it exists. Okay, we want to do something. In MacQ, we should also say have another option to make sure that we are getting this information for the logged in user, and we're going to say where user2 id, okay, is equal to the authenticated user id. Great. And if it does, we want to return follower. Okay, and here we should add an else if. Okay, and we'll repeat the same step. No need to rewrite this, it's a really long line of code. And then we are just going to change this to user2. Okay, and we're going to change this one to user1. Great. So we're going to call this following. We're going to say return following. Great. And finally, we're going to say else. We're just going to return none. Okay, great. So when we go to our people.blade.php file right here, we are going to run an if statement. Okay, and we're going to say if is following, then we're going to pass in the item id, okay, of the user, and we're going to say if is following is equal to following. Okay, we're going to have following right there. Okay, and we're going to have at else if, okay, is following, we're going to have the item3 id is equal to follower. Okay, we are going to have the what's it called, the button, same button, okay, right there, but this time we're just gonna put follower right there. And lastly, we're gonna have an else, okay, and we're gonna have follow this time around. Okay, and then we're gonna close our if statement. Great. So hopefully this works nice. Let's just go see this in our browser. So I'm gonna reload this and back to people, and you see we have follow, following, and we have follower. Okay, I think we have just one following, which we have right here, followed. Okay, so instead of having following, okay, in this place we should change this to followed. Great. So apart from that, the follow button remains the same with the followed. I think there is a misconception. The followers is having following, okay, and for the following right here we have followed. Okay, so for following right here we should have followed, and for follower we should have following. Okay, I think that's right. Let's just reload and see. For people, rows, okay, is following. Great. And also we should change the class of this to tally with what we have in the followers tab right there. Okay, so following, we're going to change the class of this. Great. So let's go back to people real quick and reload. So back to people, you see we have this up and running. So for Frederick Childs followed, which we have right here. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it for this and this video. Okay, one other thing I would have loved to do is just to check for a kind of condition whereby we don't have the else condition. Okay, now I know we know about this, okay, but I just like to check. So what I'm gonna do is that I just like to see my else statement run correctly. Okay, so for the fellowship right here, okay, I'm gonna take all of these fellowship seeds we have, and quickly I'm gonna run a fresh migration. And then I'm going to seed. Okay, now we're seeding without the fellowship. So we have followers, 0 following, notification, and right here you see we don't have, you do not currently have any followers, and for following you do not. That's good. And for the people we should see just following button. Okay, so I styled this up a bit. This div class right here, no report found. Okay, do well to get the CSS. Okay, if you don't know where to get that, hit me in the description section of this video or in the resource section, and I'll provide that for you. So guys, I'm just gonna put this back real quick, okay, and then I'm gonna run my fresh migration again, and then a database seed. Okay, to make sure we have all of this back in play. Okay, we do now. So on the next video guys, we are going to work on the search. Okay, and as soon as we work on the search, we are going to work on the follow logic. Okay, so see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session of the video. Now in the last video we talked about the following, and we did this for the people. Okay, that's everyone is in our application. Now in this video we'll talk about the search. Great. So quickly we're going to go to our code, and we have this right here. So basically I'm going to create an ID called user search. Okay, and then in this input I'm going to have an ID called user search input. Great. So back to our logged in, where we included this pastures.people right here. Okay, because we have the script section right here and we don't have the script in the people, okay, we're going to write our JavaScript code right here. Great. So I'm going to do this the dumb way. Say document, okay, that on submit, we want to tie that to the user search, that's the form. Okay, and then we want to create a function. Make sure to pass in the event, so we can say event to prevent default behavior of the form. Great. And now I'm going to create a variable, say data, and then I'm going to get the user search input. Okay, and then I'm going to say the value to get the value from it. Great. and then I'm gonna send an Axios get request. Okay, and then we're gonna create a route. We haven't created it. Okay, and I'm gonna pass in a param using the object param method for Axios, and I'm gonna say this param is gonna be term, and I'm gonna pass in data to it. Great. And as soon as we do this, we then want to collect the data. Okay, and then say console.log the data. Great. And then we also want to catch whatever error we might get and console.log the error as well. Great. So quickly, I'm going to create a route. So go back to web, and in the authentication middleware, in the get right here, I'm going to pass in search. Okay, now this is going to be auth controller. Okay, and instead of log out right here, we should have search. Great. So back to my auth controller. Just after this home, I'm going to say public function. I'm going to do it that way. We're going to pass in the request. Okay, and then we're going to save this request in a variable called term. So I'm going to say request term. Great. And then we're going to go to user model and we'll say where name. I'm going to do this the Laravel way. Say like. Okay, and then we have to concatenate that to the variable term. Okay, so we've got this. Great. And then we want to say get. So for this, we're going to call this data. Great. And then we're going to return the response, but this time around it's going to be a view. Great. And then we're going to go to home, go to partials, and then we're going to go to people. Okay, and add the search. So quickly, I'm going to duplicate this line and I'm going to call this people search .php. And for this, we won't be using all of this. Okay, so I'm going to take this out. Okay, so we have div class and the for each right there. So literally, we just want the for each. Okay, so let's just have that closed up correctly. Great. Now one thing we need to do is to change this to data. Okay, and to make sure that because we are sending this data right here, okay, we need to send that through compact data, and also we should send the term the user is searching for. And one thing we have to do is to write an if statement. Say if, okay, data count is greater than 0. We want to do that, and we'll have an end if. Also, we need to have an else statement. Great. And just like we did for the following, okay, just in case we don't have any what's it called results, we want to say sorry, there was no result found for your search term, and we need to output the term variable we're sending through compact. Great. So I think this is fine. I'm just gonna go back to this people right here. Okay, and then I have this ID already outputted here, so just make sure you have this. Okay, if you don't, make sure do well to get that. We have search result right here. Okay, so I put that after the scroll bar inner 2. Okay, I updated the HTML, so do well to get that. We have search result right there, and then I'm gonna go back to logged in. Okay, and then I'm gonna say ash search result. I think that's an ID, and the people, okay, that's an ID. So back to this, and we're gonna have HTML to be equal to data.data. Great. So our controller does this fine, and we're golden, guys. So let's go see this in action real quick. I'm gonna reload this, okay, and people, I'm gonna hit the enter key, okay, and let me try to search something we might not have. And you see we say sorry there was no search for this. Try again. Nice. So let's just say Oziri, and you see we have this working out for us correctly. And amazing, guys. If you want to, you can switch this up to be a bit to say instead of submit we should have key up. And let's go back, reload. We can actually have something like this, so that the moment we enter an input we have this real time. Okay, say, and you see this coming up okay for us, and this is nice. So one beauty about this is that all of this is happening without the page reloading, and it's crazy, guys. It is amazing. So that's it on this video, guys. I hope you learned the tool thing, okay, and I'll see you in the next video where we're gonna implement the follow logic, okay. And also one more thing is do how to bring back the migrations and the database seed, okay. I did that before starting this video. All you just have to do is to say PHP ascend migrate fresh and their database seed it again, because we are going to be needing it in the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session of the video. So on this session of the video, it's high time we allow people to, all our users in application, to start okay clicking on this follower and do stuffs themselves, then outputting from the data. So right about now we're just outputting from the database. We want people to do this themselves. So we're gonna go back, and the first we're gonna do is for the followers. Okay, so we have this button right here. So I'm gonna do this with document event or DOM event, and we're gonna have on click. We're gonna read on a function called process data. Okay, great. So basically, before I go with this, I would like to create a function. Now in logged in right here, just after we have the search, I'm gonna say function process data, and this process data is going to receive a first parameter. Now the first parameter it's going to receive is more like the action, okay, and the second one is the user ID. Okay, so, and we should also have selector. Great. Okay, so back to the process data in the followers right here, we are gonna pass this. Now there's a way I like to do this. I like to create more like a kind of to distinguish this what's it called, each of this, because this is going to run through a for each loop, okay, and when it does, it's going to output a different thing to pass into this process. That let's just pay attention and we'll get this. Okay, so we have item and we have user1, and then we're going to pass in ID, okay, for the selector. And then for the action, this is following, okay, right here. We want that when the user click on this button, it's going to output something that says, are you sure you want to unfold, stop this user from following you? And then if the user go ahead to press OK, we would go ahead with the action. So this should be, we should call this unfollow, okay. And lastly, for the user ID, we should have item user1 ID. Great. So I think this is right. Okay, this is supposed to be in the curly braces like so. Okay, so back to what's it called, logged in. Okay, we have this right here. Now when a user click on the button, okay, we want to use Netflix. Okay, so go back there, and as soon as this load, we're gonna click on confirm, and then I think this is the right one to use. So we should have something like this. So let me clear this up a bit. Okay, this is for yes, and this is for no. Okay, great. Now we should also pass this the what's it called, the title of this should be attention. Okay, and then we want to do something real quick. We're going to say if the action we're passing, we want to do it in a way whereby we can actually use this function for both this tabs, okay, this tabs and this tab. Okay, so we're going to say if the action is equals to unfollow right here, we want to do something. But first we want to create the variable called let this become the user action. Okay, and we're just going to make that undefined. So right here we're going to say user action is equal to, we're going to say unfollow. Since it's unfollow, we want to say are you sure you want to stop this user from following you? Okay, so this is going to be the message we'll pass in this confirm stuff right here. So we have that, and we're gonna pass this right here. Okay, now as soon as the user press yes, we want to create an Axios get request. Okay, and we're gonna pass in a route real quick, and we're gonna call this route user action. Okay, so we should be expecting data or okay, and we want to console.log that, and we should also catch errors. Console.log error right here. Great. So quickly we're going to go to web.php and create yet another route. So I'm just going to duplicate that, replace this, and replace this. So right about now, go to the alt controller, and just after the search, I'm going to say public function. We have this, pass in the request, and then close, return a DIDOM of our request. Okay, great. So let's just check this out real quick. When a user clicks, okay, and when it's on follow, we have that. Okay, so for the selector, when using that, and when we're sending in this get request right here, we want to do this with also using the object so as to send params, okay, right here, and we want to call this action right here. We should call this action 2, and also for the user ID we should pass in user ID. Okay, so this is going to pass in unfollow, and it's also going to pass in the user ID right there. So let's just see this in action real quick, guys. So I'm going to reload this page to followers, and I'm going to click on this. We have, are you sure you want to stop this user from following? You say yes, and then right here in the notification bar, in the network bar, we have unfollow and user ID 2. Now, well, let me try for Linda James, and right here we have user ID 5. Great. So I think that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I don't want to make this video too long, and on the next video we would see all of this in action. We start implementing all of this. See you on the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session of the video. Now we'll continue from where we stopped. Okay, we are actually in this user action right here. So first we want to say if the user action request, the action the user is taking is equals to unfollow, okay, we want to do something. We want to check if it actually exists before we go ahead with it. So we can actually get that from this right here. So we're going to say if fellowship, okay, where the user one ID is not equal to the authenticated user, okay, and then we should say where the user to ID, okay, is equal to the authenticated user. Exists, and we're going to do something. Now if it doesn't exist, we should have this return a response, a JSON response to be precise, and then we're going to pass in data, and we're going to say sorry, unable to process data. Great. So how's that spelled? Let's check. Okay, great. And now if this happens, all we have to do is to create yet another variable called data. Okay, we have that. Okay, and then we're gonna get first. Okay, and then we're gonna delete like so. Okay, now let's go try this out and see. So in followers, I'm gonna reload. I'm gonna try this. It says yes. Okay, so let's just try to reload this. Go back to followers, and you see John Doe is gone. If I'm trying this for David Progress, I try to reload to, and you see that the progress is gone. So we need to start imputing this real time, so the user doesn't have to reload the page to see this in action. So what we're gonna do right now is to go back to our code, and for the followers right here, we're gonna have this followers action. Okay, so we're gonna duplicate that. Nice. And for this followers action, we are going to take this guys off, okay, and also this guy off. Great. So now for the followers, okay, just after we have this scroll something right here, we're going to create a div ID. I'm going to call this div ID, say follow action, followers show action, and put on the closing tag. Great. So we're gonna have this followers show action, copy this, and back to a logged in. This should be a dot. Okay, we should say the selector, this guy right here, hash follower ID dot HTML. Then we should have data dot data. Great. HTML. Great. So let's go see this in action real quick, guys. Reload followers. Click on this. Yes. And for some reason, this is going off completely. So let's try to see this again. We have followers show action, and in our followers we have this ID, div ID, followers show action. Okay, and the followers action, this is fine. And just for the fact that, okay, after this happens, okay, we were supposed to return that response. So great, after this happens, we want to return a response, okay, response, and it's gonna be a view. And right now we're going to say it's gonna be in home.partials.followers action. Great. And we just have to replicate what we have right here. Okay, and we're going to paste that, and we're going to pass that through compact right here, data. Okay, so if we go back to followers action, we have followers. Instead of this, we should have data, and we should also have data right here. So let's go see this in our browser. Reload. try this one more time. Okay, and we still have an error, but this time around I'll try to pull off a fresh migration and then set this. So let's go. This time let's open the network notification bar to see this. We have yes. Okay, so we have a 500 error that says trying to get user one property of a non-object. Okay, property of a non-object in the followers action. Okay, so let's go see this again. Now this is supposed to be get. Sorry for the error, guys. Okay, but we are all humans. We're prone to make mistakes. Now you see that is gone. Great. Now let's do that one more time, and you see this is all happening real time. Great. And now you see you don't currently have any followers. Great. So that's it for the followers. I hope we learned a tool from it, and we're going to replicate the same action for the following. Okay, so see you on the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session of the video. Now in this video we are going to repeat just the same thing we did for the followers to the following. So quickly I'm just going to copy this stuff we wrote right there and paste it into following, okay, in this button. Okay, and instead of unfollow we should have follow, and instead of item we should have item 2, and also item 2 for here. And in logged in right here we should say else if, okay, action is equal to, I think we should say remove follow. I think that's it. Instead of follow we should say remove follow. So I'm going to go back to following, and instead of follow we should say remove follow. Okay, so back to this guy right here. Okay, and we want to say this, and the user action would be, are you sure you want to unfollow this user? Okay, so this is nice, and it's going to send the action to be remove follow. Okay, so I think we're golden. So I'm just gonna copy this guy right here, just not to lose the spelling. And right here we're also gonna add another else if. Okay, and we're gonna have request and say remove follow. I'm gonna say it is equal to, okay, is equal to the request, sorry, action is equal to this guy right here. Okay, and then we'll want this to happen. Great. Now for this else if, okay, we are also going to do this whole thing right here. Okay, and we're just going to paste that. So we're able to process data for the else, and this time you see for the followers right here we have user ID is not equal to, but this time around we're gonna have is equal to, because if you're following person you are the first user in that table. Okay, and right here we can have not equal to. Great, so we're gonna duplicate this, okay, real quick, and for this guy, okay, so also for this guy and for this guy. Great. Now this time we also need to pass in a new view called following action. So we're going to duplicate this and call this following action. Okay, and then for the following action we are going to, just like we did for the followers action, okay, we are going to take off all of this, okay, and also all of this. Great. And if you check right here in the followers, we also added a new what's it called ID. So we need to copy that, and for the following we put that after the scroll bar inner div class. Okay, so following, I think this should be like so. Okay, I think that's right. Let me just confirm. We should just replace that. Great. So I think this is pretty much it, guys. Let's just try this one more time. Go to following and try this. Are you sure you want to unfollow this user? You say yes, and then we have an error right there. Let's see this. Let's try this once again. Great. And I think I kind of realized where the error would be from. So let's go back to the org controller, and you see we have data right here, and this, and get, delete, return response, following action, return the data. And for following, we should replace this with data, and also this with data. Okay, so let's try this one more time. The action, don't follow. Okay, let's just see. Reload. And now we have an undefined variable data. Okay, so where could that be from? Okay, this wasn't supposed to be there. It was supposed to be here. We're supposed to have that right there. Okay, so let's try this once again. And for the following, try yes. We still have no response. Remove follow if action is equals to remove follow. If request action equals to remove follow, I think it shouldn't be a space right there. Could that be the problem? Let's try again. Reload. Following, try this. Okay, I think we have that response right there. Okay, but we currently not showing this, okay, real time. So we have to go back to following, and we call this followers show action. It's supposed to be following show action. Okay, so I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna go back to a logged in index right here, and I'm gonna run an if statement. Say if the action is equal to unfollow. Okay, we should have this, and then we should have an else if, okay, the action is equal to remove follow. We should also have this, so an ID, so we should have HTML right there to be data. Great. I think this solves the problem for us, so let's go try. But this time around, if I reload, there will be no data in my following. Okay, so I just have to run a fresh migration and seed again. So let's try to reload. I'm gonna close this, and for the followers, I'm gonna click, can play with this. This is amazing, guys. And back to following, click, and you're not currently following anyone. So that's it, guys. I think we are through with this followers and following logic, and that's pretty much interesting. So right about now, we're gonna do one real quick called the follow. Okay, and the next video we're gonna do the follow. Okay, so see you on the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session of the video. Now in the last session of the video, we did for followers and for following, okay, where we add this nice functionality in play, okay. Now we want to do the same for people right here, okay. So when you try to follow or unfollow a user, it works and looks real time. And then we'll be implementing it in the search, okay. So you can also do this, and we'll implement the follow action right there. So to do that real quick, I'm gonna go to my people.play.php right here, and first for the followers, instead of rewriting, we're just gonna copy this function we have right here. Okay, so go to people, and that will be in following. Okay, and then we'll go to following. Okay, and then we'll copy this function, same function, and to people, that will be in followed. Great. And then we're going to paste this one, this last one, and we're going to call it follow. Okay, now one of the things is we want to make sure the variable we're passing in right here is the right variable. Okay, so it's supposed to be item 3. Okay, and so it's this guy, item 3, item 3, item 3, and item 3. Then we want to also make sure that we are not going into the user model because we're already in the user model. So I'm just going to take that off real quick. Okay, great. And I think that's all. Item 3. Great. So I'm just going to copy this right now and replace with the people search the Blade of PHP what we have, since it's the same. Okay, so I'm just gonna test that out real quick. Refresh, go to people. Okay, try to click on this Linda James. Now, okay, so let's try again. Okay, I'm just gonna reload. Okay, down the followers, following Linda James, and let's try that. Linda James, yes. And you see we don't have that right here. Okay, so this time it's working for the followers, but it's not putting real time for the people. So we need to do something about that. So I'm going to go back to my logged in index.play.php right here. I'm going to create a function real quick called reload people. Okay, so the reload people is going to send an access request just like it did right here. So I'm just going to copy that and I'm going to paste the code right there. Okay, and this time around the action is going to pass right here is going to be reload people. Okay, and for the user ID we won't be passing any. Okay, so now when this gets its data, we just want to change the inner HTML of whatever response it sends. So we're going to pass data. Great. Then we need to go to the people right here. Remember we have a div class just like we did for the results. So I'm going to copy this search result right here, and in the logged in right here we're going to put that, I think, is that a div or an ID? That's an ID. Okay, so we've got this in play. Now we want, in any scenario whereby we unfollow or remove follow, we want to reload people. Okay, so that's nice. Now let's go handle this in our controller real quick. So I'm going to copy the reload people action right here, and we're going to go back to the alt controller. Okay, so right here we're going to write yet another else if statement, and we're going to say if the request action, okay, is equal to reload people, I'm going to create a user variable. Okay, and then I'm going to call the user model, which is get right here. We've done this before somewhere here. Okay, this place, and then we're going to return response, a JSON response to be precise, and then we're going to pass, a view to be precise, and then we're going to pass in the home, the partials, the people, and this time around we're going to create a new blade called people reload, and then we're going to send in our data using compact. Okay, so we'll pass user right there. Okay, so back to the people, or we can actually utilize this people search if we want to. So I'm just going to duplicate this people search, and I'm going to take this to people reload. Now we're not going to be needing this. Okay, now that will be needing this, but in actual sense we're sending user, not data. Okay, so I think this should work out fine. Let's just go see this in our browser real quick, but first I need to make this look good a bit. So I'm gonna reload right here and back to people. Okay, so try this out. Yes, and you see this is happening superb. You see that right there, guys? You see that right there. Okay, so I think we've achieved that, and that's pretty much it for this video. On the next video, we are going to implement the follow functionality. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to the session of the video. We've got the followers working, we've got the following working, and we've got the people outputting this data dynamically from the database. And now we want to integrate the follow functionality, okay? Right about now, if you click this follow, you see you have do you agree with me? Yes and no. And that's because we didn't actually handle that in our if statement right here, okay? So we want to do that right now, and since it's going to be the last option we're going to be sending in this statement, we're just going to leave it in else. So right now I'm going to duplicate this user action. Are you sure you want to follow this user? And we have this. Okay, so right here too we'll have else, and we're just going to do like so. Okay, and we're going to leave that right now. Okay, now the user action right here, are you sure you want to follow this? And when it happens, okay, we are sending the action right there, and it's going to return a request. Now when we start to follow somebody, it shows up in the following right here. Okay, so I think this following show action right here, this ID will duplicate. It's what we have in the following right here, following show action. So it's gonna refresh that tab, this particular tab, real time, and that makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, but would also want to, okay, let me go back to the logged in right here. Would also want to reload people. I think that's already handled for us too. Okay, so that's all nice, that's all nice. Now we need to go handle this in our controller right here. Okay, so we have the else if right here, and right about here we're just gonna have the else. Okay, or I prefer to do it this way. We have yet another else if. Okay, and we say if the request action is equal to follow, then we want to do stuff, and then I will just have an else, and we're going to return a response, a JSON response saying sorry, unable to perform. Now why I'm having this is that if the user is not sending maybe a follow, unfollow, or remove follow request action right there, we don't understand what action the user is doing. Okay, we don't want the user to send some random request and it ends up following the user. Now to implement the follow logic right here, it's simple. All we have to do is to create in the fellowship table, okay, a data or a record whereby the user 1 ID is our ID and the user 2 ID is the person who want to follow ID. As simple as that. So to do that, I'm going to create a variable called data, and I'm going to say new fellowship right there. Okay, and then I'm going to say data user 1 ID is equal to the authenticated user ID. Okay, and then for data user 2 ID is equal to the authenticated, not the authenticated user ID this time, sorry, the request user ID. Okay, great. Okay, and believe me, we're passing that request user ID. Say for instance in the people reload right here, you see for the follow we are passing that through here, and in the logged in right here, okay, we are passing this again through here, okay, through this params function, params object rather, and we're saying user ID, and then we're passing this user ID, the process data is receiving from the onClick event we're sending. Okay, so that's great. And now we'll also want to save this. Okay, so as soon as we save that, we want to return a response. Okay, and the response this time around is going to be a view. Okay, and then the view is going to be located in home.pastures. Okay, and then we'll go to dot following. Okay, let's see this in action. Following action. Great. So home.pastures, and we're going to have following action. We want to make sure to pass compact data. I think that is what is being used there. Okay, yeah, data is being used there. Great. So I think this is all good. Okay, we should try this out and see if we would have any error. But first, let's just confirm that this is working nice. Okay, so I'm going to reload this and go back to people and try to follow John Doe. Okay, go to following. Now let's do this in our notification bar real quick. Follow John Doe. Are you sure you want to follow this user? Yes, we have a 500 error and it's trying to get property. Okay, no problem. Now in the following action right here, it says we're trying to get property user2 ID of, or what's it called, and that's because in the fellowship table right here we have this data right there. Okay, so we want to pull off a fresh record, okay, from the following. Okay, so if we have right here, just like we do right here, we have right here, okay, we say data fellowship where user one. Now all we want to do right here is just to have that run again. Okay, so let me just do that and we'll see this in action. Okay, remember we created this for this what's it called, code right here that shows people you following. This is the code that shows that user one ID, we have the auth user ID and the, okay, great. And after saving the old data, we want to reload that and pass that into the compact. Okay, so let's try that again. John Doe, yes, and now we have 200 action. Okay, great. So let's see this in action once more. So David Vogres, follow, yes, and you see we have followed right there. And let's go to following. You see we have David Vogres right here. And if I try to do this time around, go back here, and you see we have this up and running. Okay, so that's cool, guys. That's amazing. Okay, and I think that wraps it up for the follow functionality. Okay, on the next video we are going to talk about the notification. Okay, so see you in the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session or episode of the video. Now there are some few things I want us to correct before proceeding, okay, to the next action. I want us to check this out real quick. I want to try to log in with Osiri. Okay, now we'll see all the fellowship Osiri is having. And if I try to do that for another user, which was the one we created during our database seed, root, and we see that root have 5 followers, and this is not true because in our database seed we only seeded for Osiri, which is the user ID 1. So that means that we skipped something in this check right here. It's supposed to be user 2 right here, okay, because for this instance right here we have the followers, okay, and for the user 2 ID we want to make sure that it's not equal to our ID. Now this is wrong, okay, my dear students. We're supposed to have something like this where user 2 ID is equal to our ID. So let's go check that out real quick, and we reload, and you see we have followers to be 0. Okay, now if I go try that for Osiri right here, okay, and we'll see we have followers to be 2. Great. Now I would like to run a fresh migration just to confirm this. So let's reload that, and you see we have followers to be 4. Okay, now the concept behind this is that in the fellowship table, we want to check for the user2 where the user2 ID is our ID. Now, if we have such instance, it means that we have been followed by this person. Okay, and right here we want to check where user1 ID is equal to our ID. And if that happens, it means that we're following any other person in the user2 ID. Okay, that's just the concept behind this. And one other thing I would like us to do is that when we're creating this fellowship right here, we're supposed to check to see that we are not currently following that person. Now, there are some instances in the usage of application whereby a user tried to click on this follow right here, okay, and for some reason the network disconnected and the state of the button didn't change, but it actually followed the user. Okay, but the state of the button didn't change right here. Now the user, like, okay, I really want to follow this person, clicks again, and then it's going to create 2 records in the following. Okay, when I was trying this out in the last video, okay, I saw more than like 3 records for John Doe. Okay, so to do that, you just have to make sure you check that you don't have the data before creating it. So an easy way to do that is to just create a variable, okay, or we don't have to use a variable. We're just going to say an if statement, and we're going to say if, okay, in the fellowship table where the user1 ID, okay, since you follow it, is the authenticated user ID, okay, and we're also going to have another where clause, the user2 ID, okay, this will be user1, which is the request user ID exists. Okay, now if it exists, we want to return or throw what's it called, an error that says sorry, just like this one. Okay, let's just have that right there. Great. And then we want to have else right there. Great. Okay, so one other thing I would want us to do is to make sure that we pass the status code for this data right here to be 422. Okay, since we're already using 200. Okay, now what I mean 200 is when you send a JSON request and you don't pass the status code, it is assumed to be 200 unless you hit a code error and it's going to be changed to 500. Okay, so we're already using 200 right here in our logged in. Okay, so we need to make sure we send a 422 so we can catch this as an error in the catch right here. Okay, so that's great. So back to that, I think that is complete. That is all nice. Let's go see this out real quick. So I'm going to try to reload, go to people and try to follow root Paul. Okay, and we got this up and running. Now it seems like nothing changed, but this is good practice. Okay, and if you know that before, kudos. If you don't, I hope you learned a 2 or 3 from it. Okay, just to confirm, we have 4 followers and this, all of this is happening. Okay, so when I try to follow, okay, the count right here is not Putin. Okay, we're gonna do that, but we are having the nice count right here. Okay, so let's follow me on the manual. Okay, that's nice. So let's try this out for root and see that we are all in track. Okay, so root has 1 followers and 0, 0. Okay, so let's try that. Let's try to remove this and reload. Okay, great. So that's it on this video. Now in the next video, we are going to try to make this notification appeal. Okay, and we want an instance whereby when it used to say when root right here sends auxiliary maker follows them auxiliary maker. Okay, we want that to appear right here in the notification one, and we want to get a sound for that. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session of the video. Now we want to do the notification to start appearing in real time, okay, and start checking for notifications, okay, periodically. And then when it gets a notification, we get an audio playback saying it gets an notification or a new what's it called, fellowship or so. Now you can see this practically in big applications like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and the likes. So we're gonna do this right now using Axios and Laravel, okay? And just watch how we do that. I'm gonna say notification or notify. I'm gonna define a variable called notify, and I'm gonna instantiate a new instance of the notification class. Okay, I told us I like to do it that way. You can do it whatever way you want. And then we're gonna have the user ID. Now, this user ID is going to be the concerned user ID. Okay, so remember that when we for sending the follow request, we're sending the concerned user, that the person will follow it ID. So we have a request user ID right there, and then we have the notify title. Okay, and I would say you have a new follower. Okay, and then we'll do that for the same thing for the content right there. Okay, and I'm just gonna leave it that way and then save. Okay, if you ask the question, where did you have this user ID title content? Okay, we created that when we created the notifications, migrations, and model. So we have it right here, user ID, title, and content. Great. So what it does is that when you send in a new fellowship, okay, or when you send in a new fellowship rather, it is going to create in the notification table, and it's going to add the concerns user ID and request using the request, okay, and then it's going to pass the title and content, which we won't be using in this particular course, okay, but we just want to illustrate this. Now let's do this in action real quick, guys. So we're going to go back. I'm trying to reload this, okay, and I'm going to create a new private window. Okay, then I'm going to log in as Osiri right here. Okay, so go to people, and I'm going to try to follow root Paul. So click on yes. Okay, so let me try to reload this, and now you see we have notification here to be 1. Great. Now that's nice. I think we're golden, guys. We have notification here to be 1. So we need to do something real quick to appeal this notification real time. Okay, so first of all, I would like to go to the logged in, okay, right here. And then I'm going to create an input. Okay, I'm going to make it an hidden input. Okay, or type hidden input right there. Okay, and we're going to send the ID to be notification count. Great. And then we're going to set its value to be the notification right here. We'll pass in this notification variable right here, and we're going to count it. So what we're doing here is to have a kind of input where we store the initial count of the notification when we reload what's it called, the page. Okay, so after that, I want to create a function real quick. Okay, so I'm going to create a function, and I'm going to call the function check notification. Great. Now what this is going to do is that it's going to get the initial notification right here. Okay, from the input we created. Great. And then we want to get its value. Okay, and as soon as we do that, we want to use a set interval function. Okay, and this is going to be like so. We want to pass in a maximum of 4 seconds to do this. Okay, and then when this happens, every 4 seconds we want to send an Axios get request. Okay, and we want to send it to a route which we haven't created before, but we're going to call the route check notification. Great. And do well to send in a param right there. So we're going to say params. Okay, and then we're going to send in count. Okay, and then we're going to plug in the notification variable created right there. Okay, so when this gets its data, we want to do something, but before we go ahead, we need to see the output. So I'm going to say console.log data. Okay, and that's fine. And we're also going to catch, going to pass that as an error, and we're going to say console.log error. Great. Now we want to call this check function, okay, just beneath right here, okay, just right there. Great. So next we want to do notification, spelled that correctly, is to create a route real quick. So I'm going to go to web.php right here, and just right here I'm going to duplicate this, and we're just going to leave like so, and leave like so, and like so. So back to the alt controller, okay, and just right here I'm going to do add my public function. You can put this anywhere, okay, but I just want to put it right here for some special reasons, okay, just to see the way we implement this one. That's why I'm placing right here. So for the notification right here, we need to create a notification variable, and then we go to the notification class, and we say where the user ID, okay, the concerned user ID is the authenticated user ID, okay, and then we want to get. Okay, so what we want to do is to return response, okay, of the notification count. Great. Now this is supposed to be a JSON response. Okay, so we should have that if we want it that way, or we could say we send it through data, okay, and just like so. So let's go check this out real quick. I'm just going to reload that, okay, which I think I have, and now we are having this, okay, it is sending 1 and it is getting 1. Okay, if you see right here, it is sending 1 in the params and it is getting 1. Great. So what we have to do right now is we go back to the logged in index right here, okay, and right here we are going to say something real quick. We're going to check for an instance whereby the notification we have locally, or notification we are receiving from the server, is greater than the one we have locally. So we're going to say if data and this data, the third data. Now why I'm adding this third data right here, guys, is because if you check here in the object with console.log, we need to go into one depth more to get data from there. So if data is greater than notification, okay, and then we want to do something, okay, so we're just going to console.log you have a new notification, okay, and that's pretty much it. So what I want to do right now is to run a fresh migration and then dbc that again. So right about now you see we have 0 right there, and that's pretty much great. So I'm going to reload this right now, and I am going to follow root once again, go to people, and then just before then, let's see this out, go to network. Okay, so we're having 0 counts. Now you see that we are not having any data right there. Now the moment I follow root, okay, now let's go back and wait for it. Now you see you have a new notification. Okay, that's pretty much it on this video, guys. I don't want this video to be extremely long. Okay, on the next video, we are going to implement a notification system to this, where we get this an actual sound for this notification, and we get this count running up correctly. So see you on the next video. Bye bye. Hello my dear students, welcome to this new session of the video. Now, on the last video we talked about the check notification, and we actually see that when a serial maker is following root poll, I think we see this in the console. You have a new notification right there. Okay, that's nice, that's great. And there's something we want to do real quick. We want to update, okay, the notification value, just so that when we're trying to check again, it starts referencing to an old data. Okay, and what I mean is that when our code is running, it is getting the notification right here from the notification count we created. We want to make sure that if the data is greater than notification right there, we want to update this notification right here. Okay, so we're going to see that in action real quick. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, and right here we're going to have that as a new value. Okay, so our value this time around is going to be data. Okay, great. Okay, so what we're going to do is, if it is greater, we want to update how many notifications we have right here. Okay, else we still believe that the data is in this initial state. Okay, so that's one. And after that, if you go to the public right here, and you go to assets, and we go to file, I'm going to share this file with you. Okay, I had it mp3 file, okay, more like a small WAV file that just plays a kind of audio. Okay, I think I can play that right here. And we're going to implement this right away to see this in action. Okay, so instead of console.logging this, we are going to do something real quick. But before we do that, here I would like to do it this way. We're going to create a variable called status, and we're going to set the status to be equals to false. Great. And then if we actually notice an increment in our data, we want to say if status is equal to false, then we want to do something. Okay, so what we need to do is to use the JavaScript audio, okay, to play this thing, a new sound, this sound right here, to our users. So I'm going to create a variable called song, okay, and I'm going to instantiate a new instance of the audio object, okay, and I'm going to say song.src to set the source of it, and it's going to be asset, okay, and I'm going to go through the assets folder, and I'm going to file, and I'm going to just say .mp3. okay, I hope I have that correctly. Fine. And then I'm going to say song.play. okay, and this is nice. Now there's just one other thing I need to talk about. Okay, after we do this, okay, just before that, we need to also set the status to true, so it changes its initial status. One other thing is that when this loads up, we get the count, fine, we get the sound. Okay, for the followers right here, so let me say if a series is to follow root poll, I'm going to try that again. Okay, let's just try that. Let's see. If I'm to follow RuPaul, I think I'm following out right now. I'm going to reload, go to followers. We're going to see it right here. Okay, we need to reload this particular stuff right here so it happens real time. Okay, real time kind of. So what I'm going to do right now is to create yet another function, and I'm going to call that function reload followers. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Axios right now, create an Axios get request, you know the drill, guys, and I'm gonna pass yet another route which would create called reload followers. Okay, nice. And then we don't need to send in a param. Okay, so this is just a quick route, and we have data from it. Okay, and we're going to, if we go to the followers right here, okay, where is that? In the views, and you go to home, okay, and we'll go to pastures. Okay, right there you see we have an ID followers show action. Okay, so I'm gonna copy that ID real quick because we want, when you get the request, we want to refresh this particular content. Okay, so what we're doing is partially refreshing pages to make it look real time. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the logged in index right here. So what we want to do is to reload the followers and impute that data into this right here. Okay, so let's check that. Let's do that real quick. We're gonna have that, and we're gonna have HTML to be data. Okay, so this is HTML. Great. So we want to call this reload followers. Okay, just after we notice an increment, we play the sound to the person, we want to reload the followers right there. Okay, so we need to go create this route real quick. So I'm gonna go to web.php right here. Okay, I'm gonna say, I'm just gonna duplicate this line right here. Okay, and also this guy and this guy. Great. So we're gonna go back to the auth controller. So I'm gonna say public function. Okay, and we have that right here in reload followers. I just want to make sure. So back to the auth controller, we have this reload followers, and now what we're going to do is partially reloading pages. What we've been doing since it's just partially reloading pages, and I think we have something that handles that already for us. Okay, now for the followers followership, where user 2 ID, okay, I told you if you've been followed, okay, you're gonna be the user 2 ID. Okay, why, if someone else is following you, you're gonna be the user 1 ID. So we have that in the, what's it called, the reload followers right there. So we have followers followership where user 2 ID, okay, is your ID. Now we want to get all your latest followers. Okay, so after we do that, we would want to, I think we could reuse this followers action which we've created right here. We created displayed followers action. Okay, we can actually reuse that. So we're going to say return response view. Okay, and it's going to be home.ratios.followers action. Okay, and we're going to send this through a compact, and it's going to be, okay, datas, I think. Okay, because we're going to rename this to data. Okay, because in the blade we have right here the followers action, we already have that using data. Okay, and we already linked it up somewhere. We don't want to mess that up. Okay, so I'm going to run a fresh migration, and then I'm going to run database seed. Okay, so we're going to reload this real quick. Okay, so we've got all of this up and running. Now I'm going to go to the other account and reload that. So go to followers. Okay, we have all of this. Go to people, then follow root Paul. Okay, so right about now, nothing seems to be happening. Okay, so I'm just gonna take my time to refresh the page and try this one more time. It could be catching error or something. Back to people. Okay, let's try to follow report. Follow. Okay, and we have that. Okay, it was catching error, I think. So you just had to Control Shift R refresh your page sometimes. Okay, and you see that we have that sound. Okay, if for some reason you're unable to play the sound on your computer, you make sure you click on this info button right here and you click on permissions. Okay, and you grant this the necessary permission. If not, you won't be able to play this particular sound on a local development environment. Okay, so that's pretty much it on this video, guys. If for instance root tries to follow Osiri Maker, so back, and you see we have that, and automatically we have root port right here. Okay, so this is how happening, in fact, in no time. Okay, so I hope you learned a two thing about this video, and on this note we draw the curtains. Okay, if there anything you want to add, no problem, you can always go to the discussion session of this video. Okay, and you tell me what you'd like me to add, but for now I'm gonna drop this just like so. Okay, try adding the load more yourself, or with time I'm going to update this course. But I just wanted to make sure that we got the concept of follow and follow logic. Okay, and we also see this from a different perspective. I didn't want to use the regular form submit and session to do things. I wanted to do this using this partial way, loading pages partially, so that way we don't need to load a whole lot of resource. Okay, we just had to load them once and a whole lot of things goes on there. Okay, so I hope you learned a thing from this video. You guys are awesome. You followed me from the first video to this last video. You awesome. Okay, and I'll do well to see you in some other courses. Okay, thank you for watching.